Hello to you. So in part one, we were talking about playing the blues on Richter versus Pentatonic 1/4, and we took a look at playing the changes also. When we're on our 1, we played the G blues scale. When we're on our 4, we played the C blues scale. When we're on our 5, we played the D blues scale. Let's just do a quick recap. Let's start with our G blues scale. On Richter, the G blues scale has 12 notes. It spans an octave and a half. And it has 2 half-step bends, 1 whole step bend, and 1 trill. Pardon me. I think with the trills and the bends are kind of the fun part. I think otherwise we'd all just be playing chromatic harmonicas, but we like the expressive bends, and the trills are exciting, and they also, just have the smooth legato sound to them. And also I'll say trills, bends, and glissando. We don't really have any glissando proper. 3 notes or more of the scale we're dealing with in a row. But on Pentatonic 1/4, we did have some glissando, and smooth, easy to play. You can play as fast as you care to. You can just rip through. So on Pentatonic 1/4, G blues scale, we have 20 notes. It spans 2 octaves, plus a note, goes G to G. Pardon me. You have 4 whole step bends, 2 half step bends, 4 trills, and 2 4-hole glissando sections that we can rip across there. And not knowing anything else, not even seeing it, if you were told, yeah, you got this one harmonica, it has 12 notes, 2 half-step bends, 1 whole step bend, 1 trill, and the other one has 20 of the notes that you want, 2 4-hole glissandos, 2 half-step bends, 4 whole step bends, and it's 2 octaves plus a note. Not knowing anything else, which one would we opt for? So, all right, let's move on to C. And in C on Richter, for our 4 there, I'm going to be playing the C blues scale, but our flat 3 is missing the E flat. All that's available is E, or the 2, the D major there. And if we're to employ the D major and the other 4 notes that it shares with the G blues scale, in effect play the G blues scale, but just focus on the C when we do our change to the 4 there. Well, not the blues scale, we need to leave the flat 5 off, but play the G minor pentatonic scale, focusing on the C. So instead of having a 3, we have our major second, and then the 4. That gives us this effect. It's like we're not really sure where you're going with that. Sometimes it even, I find, depending on what you play, when you go back to the 1, takes a second for you and the other folks to get their bearings and dial into what's going on. It's just kind of an up in the air sound when you play the 1, the 2, the 4, the 5, and the flat 7, which is what goes down if we play the G pentatonic minor scale over that change, the 4. And we talked about how our other option was we could play the major 3rd. Sounds pretty happy though. It's basically like Mixolydian mode there. Has that major sound just with the flat 7 on there. And it's incongruent with when we're on the 1, we're using our flat 3. When we're on our 5, we're using the flat 3. But then when we go to the 4, we start using the major 3. sounds incongruent. So if we did indeed want to be playing the blues scale there, then all we're left with is 6 notes, and we'll just have those 6 notes there. Let's go to pentatonic 1/4. Pentatonic 1/4 has 18 notes. It spans, again, 2 octaves plus a note. And 6 whole step bends. 4 half step bends. We count our, G, the G flat to the F, or, there you go, times 2. There's 4 trills, or 2 and 2, if you will. You have your F to G in 2 octaves, and really, if you pull your G down to the F, you can trill between the E flat and the G there in 2 octaves. 0 glissando on the C. Let's move on to D. So on Richter in the D, there was 19 notes. I don't feel whole 10 with those 2 notes there is all that useful to us, and I don't think the bottom 3 holes are useful to a lot of people. It depends on one's skill set. Nonetheless, 19 notes there, and what do you have there? 1 whole step bend and 1 half step bend. 2 trills. On pentatonic 1/4, we had 22 notes, 2 whole step bends, 2 half step bends, 15 trills, 10 whole glissando across the draws. There's our whole pentatonic minor scale there in 2 octaves lined up on the draw. A child can do it. We'd be ripping. You can really rip through there. Again, play just as fast as you care to. And then there's 2 4-hole glissandos on the blow. Very fine configuration there. Okay. So let's move on then. And let's talk about playing in draw harp, making that D our home base. See, we've already kind of covered how it behaves. So let's look at Richter first. We know what it does there. Pardon me. And when you change to your 4, then you're playing the G blues scale there. Cool. So far, so good. Then we change to our 5. We want to play the A blues scale. And you can do that in the top octave. There's a full blues scale there. You got to get your flat 5 via a blow bend, which isn't a whole lot of fun, as you know, but whatever, it's there. You also have, and then the bottom octave and a half, you have the minor pentatonic scale, which will carry you through. That's cool, the flat 5 can be looked on as an add-on there, you can still carry yourself through without it, But the problem with the bottom octave is that our root note is on the whole step bend of a 3 bend hole, the old 3 draw there. And we employ that, using our, when we're playing the G blues scale, we get our B flat there, which is our flat 3. And like I say, there's some wiggle room in there to have that not exactly on pitch on the 3. Okay, that's cool. If using like if you're using that A right below it in playing the D blues scale, that A ends up being our 5. You need to be more exacting. It needs to be more on pitch there. It helps if you're grabbing it and then bending down to the flat 5, I mean, which you can do, that helps, but if you're just grabbing it right on point, it takes more effort than if you're messing with the 3. And if we're using it as our 1, as we do in the case of playing draw harp with A as our 5, then that A note on the 3 draw is our tonic note. And it needs to be right on point. It needs to be hit with conviction. And there again, I think there's very few of us who can do that. If you're great, you can do that. And even if you are great and can do that, it's really not that wonderful a configuration in that there's no glissando, no trills, and only 1 half-step bend. You can, just about be playing, do this same thing with a chromatic harmonica. Dun, 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 dun. Like I say, I don't think that's what we're in it for. We're in it for bends, trills, glissando, excitement, expressiveness. Okay. Oh, yes. And the other thing about being in... well, then when we transition from our A, that's fine. Let's say we there again, most of us aren't able to play that bottom octave, so we can pretty much scratch that bottom note. And so let's say we go ahead and start playing in our top octave there. We can't go too high and go up there and most times and do a bunch of stuff, because then when we change to our 4, the 4 is actually in the lower octave. It stops on that 6th blow. So when we're playing an A, we don't want to go too much further beyond that 6th blow up, because then we're going to have to, our riff just needs us, from the 6 on down when we change to the 4. And you can find a middle ground there, do select riffs there and work your way through it. But it's pretty limiting, primarily, unless you're great at employing that A in the lower octave. You've got the A in the upper octave, and then your G is in the lower octave. They're not together, so it's a pain. All right, so, pardon me. So, on Pentatonic 1-4, draw harp, we start out with our D, which I believe is, supreme, super deluxe. It's got all the glissandos, trills, got 2 whole step bends and 2 half step bends. You can rip on it, it's expressive. And then our 4 would be the G, which has, it's a trade-off. It's you either get, a bunch of glissando and you rip, or you get more whole step bends. And you can, depending on what key you choose to be in, you can, it runs systematically. You can set up what it is you want to do. Nonetheless, when we're on the G here, then it's bendier, etc., like we just covered. And then for our 5, it's going to be A. And the A comes out, and it's got 2 half step bends, 14 trills, a 10 hole glissando across the blow reeds, and then a 3 hole and a 4 hole draw glissando. And your 5, comes out, and then you can bend to your flat 5 like we like to do. You need to start on a half step bend though, so it's, little more challenging there. It's a half step bend on a whole step bend whole. Grab your half step bend and bend it down to the bottom there. So glissando all the way across, Oops, messed up in there. Anyway, well, which brings to mind there again, I don't really do these things justice here. We got all these notes. If I were better, I could just, really go crazy in there. Got what is it? 22 notes here, I believe. Richter had 17. 22 notes, tons of glissando. Yep, okay. That's good on that one then. And so then, yes. Okay. Then let's move on down the line, I suppose, and play in A. We can make A our home base if we care to. So we play the A. Just like we were discussing there, the D, that we know, would be our 4. Then for our 5, we play E. We want the E blues scale. And there you go. That'll carry you through real nice. You got a whole blues scale there that's set up fairly well, plays well, sounds nice. Not too difficult. Essentially the same maneuver we're just doing there on our A, on a 2-bend hole, starting on the half step bend to grab our 5, and then bending it down to the flat 5. Moving on from your 5 upward is less than ideal. You got the flat 7 right next to your 5, the B, but then you need to skip up to hole 10 for the E, or you could have initially skipped to hole 9 to get your D there. But it's just not that great. It's not the end of the world. Usually I just stay in that pardon me, easy section there. I'm pretty spoiled these days. Not that, this is a terribly difficult maneuver, but like, oops. So that'll carry you through, particularly on the 5. We generally spend, the least amount of time on the 5, most of our time on the 1. Pardon me. So that's what A comes up looking like. You got A, D on your 4, that E there for the 5. And also, like I was saying, it works out with the bends. You can kind of choose your how you want to go about it. These are all, A is very big on glissando and notes lined up in a row, but it only has one whole step bend for the whole lot, if you will. Like in A, there's no whole step bends. In E, there's no whole step bends. We just have the one whole step bend. Well, per octave, we got one whole step bend on the D. And then we'll just travel through. And then if we were to play in key of D, there would be 3 whole step bends available for us. We'd have our 1 from the key of D per octave, and then we'd have our 2 from G, and none for the A, of course. And then if we played in key of G, where G is our 1, C is our 4, D is our 5, we'd have 6 whole step bends. And if we played in key of C, with C is our 1, F is our 4, G is our 5, we'd have 7 whole step bends. So it's just a steady progression of how many whole step bends you want. A has 1, D has 3, G has 6, C has 7. Wow, how many bends do you want, or do you want to play in a more linear ripping fashion? Then, stay on that end of things. Speaking of playing in key of C, let's take a look at that. So, I covered previously how C operates. And as the 3 whole step bends and the and then our 5 would be good old G. Then for our 4, we want to start playing F. F is similar to C, actually. Yeah, let's just play a little of it. Similar to C, we got on our 5, we can go where flat 5, 4. Then again, we can travel through the bends. On E, they were even. They were both whole step bends. Here, we need to lighten up a bit on the embouchure there and grab our half step bend for our 3 there, the A flat. But you can still move between them. They stay, pretty much on pitch. Even for a guy who's not that great, And then similarly, we traveled from that flat 3 and moved over to the F on the whole step bend. And traveled up to and it's like, well, that's a little weird. That one is a little weird, and it's not it's not a ripper. I think, one of the defining things for me is it fun? Yeah, it's kind of fun. I like playing it. It's got some nice bends, and more than enough action to carry you through. It's so. Then there's your C. That's the 4 of key of C, bum bum bum, and that one's the bendiest one. Runs through their thing there. Okay. Let's close it up right there, and we'll get back up later.